This is a tutorial on the Tenant Representation and Broker Compensation Agreement, Form TRBC. This is the same sort of representation agreement as the BRBC, but this is for buyers. If you're working with a tenant, then you use a TRBC, and you must have this signed before your first showing. Very important. You can get in trouble if you don't. And it's only 2 pages, so we'll go through it quickly. I did a tutorial on this before with an LCA, lease commission agreement, but you don't need that because you ask for your commission on the lease agreement, which is a separate tutorial. I'll do in a separate video. But for this, we'll go through it quickly. You'll put the date you prepare this form here, the name of the tenant or tenants here, the name of your brokerage here, representation period. It's very important you have both a beginning and ending date, because if one or both is left blank, this can become unenforceable. So make sure to have both of these in here. Now, property type, single family residential is here by default. If you do nothing, that's a property type. Why they have an exclusion box doesn't make sense to me. Don't bother checking this exclude SFR. Why? Just leave it alone. But you can add other property types. Condo, just check it all. Check anything that might apply. It's so silly how they break it down. Apartment sale, townhouse sale. Come on, really? Just check everything that your client could possibly rent, and don't check this. Location, check this box and write in multiple cities or one city, wherever you're showing properties. I also gave an example of another description because you want to be broad, but not too broad. Here's an example. I'm saying all of Orange County. Why? Because Orange County is a relatively small geographic county. Geographically speaking, it's small. So you could reasonably service all of Orange County. However, if you put something larger like Los Angeles County, well, that creates a problem because you may not be able to reasonably service all of Los Angeles County. It's pretty big. So the point is, you want to put something that's broad, but not too broad, because you don't want a tenant that, if they ever want to contest this, to say, look, this agent just wrote all of Southern California or all of California. Well, that's silly. It could never be, you could never carry your duties properly throughout the entire state. So the point is, be specific, but don't limit yourself, and be broad, but not too broad, or else it could be unenforceable. All right. Tenant preferences. Write this in if you want. This isn't an enforceable action per se, or at least not that I can tell. So it's more of just a conversation you're having with your client. Amount of compensation. Now here's the important part, right? For a fixed term lease, check this box, write in, this is what's customary. Usually it's a percentage of the total payments outlined in the lease agreement. Or if you're doing a flat fee, write it in here. Also, you should do this out of good measure for a month-to-month rental, because you don't know what the tenant's going to negotiate. That's why I set up here, check a bunch of these, because you don't know if your tenant is going to change their mind and say, we can't find a single-family home we like, that we like. Instead, we're going to rent a condominium. So that's why you're protecting yourself by checking all these. We don't know if we want to live in this city, maybe the neighboring city. That's why you keep it a little more broad. Down here, we don't know if it's a fixed term lease, maybe it's a month-to-month lease. Check both of these. Write in a commission amount that addresses each of these scenarios. These are 2 possibilities. Make sure you have an answer for if either arises. Now they have this box down here, tenant shall owe no compensation. If you're going to work for free, help the needy, or rescue animals, do something else with your time, doing real estate agency for free is no good. You need to be paid if you're doing real estate agency. So don't ever check this box. This is silly, okay? All right, and then it just goes on with some verbiage. Yeah, you can read that here. This basically says that if the housing provider, which is AKA landlord, AKA property owner. There's all these terms now, but if the owner, the property, pays you, okay, it offsets the tenant's obligation to pay you. So if your tenant is complaining, I don't want to come out of pocket $1,500 or 2.5%, say, well, you may not have to, because if the owner is paying commission, it gets credited toward whatever's up here. Other terms, if you need anything else, write it in here. Do not write in that you're going to guarantee that the property owner is going to pay your commission. Don't do that. Number one, there's all sorts of issues that come up with that. But number two, it has a negative effect in terms of whether or not this is even a valid contract. So I'll just, without going on a total tangent, do not make any sort of if such scenario happens, then that scenario happens. You can't have an if-then scenario with commission. And you cannot guarantee that someone else is going to pick up the tab for your client. If your tenant refuses to even make this commitment, knowing that the property owner is probably going to pay it, then run from that tenant. Run away. All right, just some boilerplate verbiage here. Everyone signs and we're all done. That's it. Thank you for watching. I hope you found it helpful.